Hi, my name is Beth, and welcome back to Fixated, where I sit down, get ready, and talk about what I'm currently hyperfixated on. You may know me from Instagram or TikTok. You most likely don't, but if you do, I'm sorry. I like to talk about living with ADHD and autism, and I also like to talk about a bunch of shit I'm obsessed with. So that brings us to Fixated, and today I'm really fixated on a case that I've been studying for quite a few years. We're going to be talking about Anna Delvey and how she pulled off the scam of a lifetime, or at least tried to pull it off. She ended up in jail, but I mean, she's still getting famous, and people are calling her an icon. And before calling her an icon, I think we need to remember that she has actual victims that are not just big hotels and banks. People had their entire life savings stolen. People lost their jobs because of this girl. I definitely recommend watching the 60 Minutes Australia interview of her, because the whole time she's literally just like, I didn't do anything wrong. I did not do a crime. She is hilarious how she literally cannot see what she did wrong. I mean, she may not be rich, but she certainly acts like a rich person. It's been about a year since Anna was released from prison, but she's currently in ICE custody. They're determining whether she should be deported back to Germany or not. And Netflix is about to release a series about her called Inventing Anna. So I thought this would be a good time to talk about this. I'm really excited to see this series. Julie Gardner really did her homework. I watched the trailer and I was like, oh my God, that is spot on. Let's get this started. So Anna Delvey was born Anna Sorokin January 23rd, 1991 in Moscow, or more like southeast of Moscow, not exactly in Moscow. She was one of two children. Her father was a truck driver and her mother owned a convenience store and then became a housewife. They lived in Russia until 2007 and then they moved to Germany when Anna was 16. Her classmates described her as being very studious and very shy and also having very intense opinions. I wonder who that sounds like. When she finished high school, she moved to London for college, but she quickly dropped out and moved back to Germany. Back in Germany, she interned at a PR company, and then she moved to Paris to intern at the fashion and art magazine Purple. Around this time is when she ditched Anna Sorokin and started going by Anna Delvey. Anna Delvey, bitches. Sorry, her voice is really fun, and the best way I can describe it is she kind of sounds like Tommy Wiseau. You can't quite place it. It's somewhere in Europe. It's kind of Russian, but kind of German. Anna Delvey, bitches. While she was working at Purple, this is when she started, going to fashion shows, going to fancy dinners. This is when she was first introduced to this rich lifestyle. And that's what she wanted. She was intrigued. She was fascinated. She wanted to be among the elite. She wanted to be a rich girl. If I was a rich girl, na 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 na. See, I'd have all the money in the world if I was a wealthy girl. I bet she listened to the song and was just like, I am gonna be a rich girl. Took it too far, Anna. Let's blame Gwen Stefani. Did Gwen Stefani sing that song? Na, 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 na. Comment below if you remember who sang that song, because I want to Google it right now. If I start Googling something, then I'll go down a Google hole and never get out. Soon this will turn into a Gwen Stefani video. What was I talking about? Oh, Anna Delvey, bitches. She was invited to attend New York Fashion Week with her boss in 2013, and this is when she decided to transfer to Purple's New York office and move to New York, which it's hard not to fall in love with New York when you first go there. I lived in New York for 4 years. It's a magical place. It's also an expensive ass place. And when Anna arrived in New York, she arrived. But when Anna arrived in New York, she didn't immediately surround herself with the rich of the rich. She surrounded herself with very cool, up-and-coming people. This was when influencers were kind of on the rise, so she surrounded herself with very artsy, young, cool, up-and-coming people. My friend is calling me. She would take people out to all of the fanciest restaurants. She would treat people. She would tip people $100 at a time for doing the most simple tasks. 100 here, 100 there, 100 everywhere. Man, was I friends with the wrong people in New York. Man, where was this girl when I was in New York? I arrived in New York in 2013 too. Anna, where the fuck were you? And people were a little bit like, where did she come from? Where did this girl come from? And she was immediately accepted into high society in New York. It sounds like she's really, really good at networking. She's been described as being really charming, really funny, just really sweet and gentle. She comes off as someone you can trust. Her friends would say that she would get $400 eyelash extensions and go to a trainer that was $300 a session. So she was living the high life. And so people were wondering, where was this money coming from? Who is Anna Delvey? Well, that changed quite a few times, but the consistent story was that she was a wealthy billionaire's daughter, and she was set to inherit $60 million when she turned 26 or something like that. And what her dad actually did changed quite a few times. Like, she would say he was in oil, she would say he was in solar energy, she would say he was a diplomat, stuff like that. And people just kind of bought it because she was one of those people that you could really, really trust. She would just treat people to dinners, treat people to this, treat people to that, hand out money, and then they instantly trusted her. Boy, were they wrong. People said she was very, very classist in the way she spoke. Like, she would say shit like, "You bitches broke." I'm broke. She met a very successful artist named Michael, and the two hit it off very quick. They took a trip to Italy together in 2015, and Michael ended up paying for the whole thing, and Anna was like, "Don't worry, I'll pay you back." Surprise, surprise, she didn't. She kept forgetting, and then Michael wrote this off as her being like a little absent-minded. But then came Anna's birthday party in January of 2016. Michael went, and the restaurant had contacted him saying that Anna provided an invalid credit card number and false contact information. Anna, you broke bitch. He was eventually repaid the money that he spent on Italy, but it was from like a weird Venmo account or something. So you might be wondering how she got all of this money. She kind of just always found a way to like open credit lines, move money around. She would falsify bank statements saying she had X amount of money in like a Swedish bank and then get these credit lines opened. She would make false wire transfer confirmations and then just like scoot out of there. She would kind of just like always move money around, provide false statements, and like I don't know how she did all of this shit. She always just got banks to give her money and was just like, "Oh, I'll pay it back later," and then just never did. Here's the thing, she always had cash, she never had cards. She would write bad checks and then cash them out before the banks realized that they were bad checks. She would stay at hotels also and just rack up a bunch of fees and charge the dinners to the room. Anna's main goal in New York was to open this art foundation called the Anna Delvey Foundation, or the ADF. It was basically going to be this members only club with like bars, restaurants, art exhibits, like a cafe. It sounds like just a rich people club for rich people. She really wanted to use the Church Missions Home, which is on Park Avenue South in Manhattan. And the owner was even saving it for her. She basically always made people think that she was good for her money. So she got away with like not paying at restaurants. So no one ever really questioned her. They always just assumed she just like forgot to pay, but it was so consistent. And it didn't catch up with her for a while. Like it was years before she was really caught. She would even go to restaurants. Her favorite was Le Coucou. I don't know. Restaurant I've never eaten at, probably could never afford to eat at. She would go to fancy restaurants and get the chef to make things that were not on the menu. At a fancy restaurant, that's expensive. Anna Delvey, bitches. And this whole part with the loans I don't quite get. She apparently did something illegal, but I'm going to explain it as best I can. She tried to get a $22 million loan for her art foundation, but City National Bank said no. So she created more false bank statements that said that she had 60 million euros in this like Swedish bank or something like that. And she somehow ended up with a $100,000 overdraft fee from City National Bank. Why the fuck was everybody just handing her money? They're like, "Oh, she'll pay us back." Poor little naive little bitches. I mean, if I saw someone decked out in Gucci, like I would think they would pay me back too. Now later in 2016, she had to go back to Germany at some point for 6 months, and she didn't come back until February of 2017. I don't know why she had to go back to Germany. I think it was a visa issue, but she came back. Unfortunately, that's when she checked into the 11 Howard Hotel. She would frequently give staff $100 here, $100 there. You give me a mint on my pillow, $100. Brought me ice, $100. Carried my bag, $100. Breathed, $100. I feel like her having just a ton of cash on her should have been a huge red flag. I don't know what rich person just carries around all this cash. When she was at the Howard Hotel, she rarely left. She would eat at the restaurant for like every meal and charge it up to the room, and she'd invite friends to come have dinner and drinks with her, and she would pay for everything and just charge it up to the room. This was around the time she started getting closer to Rachel Williams. Rachel, girl, I am so sorry. Rachel was one of Anna's friends who worked at Vanity Fair. She didn't have a big job at Vanity Fair. She was still, growing, but she was a working girl. Anna would never become friends with people who were super, super rich. She would just become friends with people who were very up and coming, who made enough. You know what I mean? Rachel would stop by the 11 Howard on her way home from work to have dinner and drinks with her friend Anna, Anna would pay for everything. She'd be like, "No, girl, it's on me. You work harder for your money than I ever never have girl what money. Anna racked up a $30,000 hotel bill at the 11 Howard. They realized she did not have a credit card on file. When they contacted her about this, she sent them champagne. She's like, oh, champagne will make it just all better. She must have like really charmed them if she didn't have a credit card on file, because like every hotel I've ever stayed at, they've been like, credit card on file. They've been very, very strict about payment, especially hotels I've stayed in New York. So she deposited $100,000 worth of fraudulent checks and wire transferred $70,000. How was she able to do all of this? She wired about $70,000 to the Howard Hotel, but she still didn't put a credit card on file, so they evicted her. And at some point, she booked a private jet to go to Nebraska. I don't know what was going on in Omaha, but Anna needed to be there. Anna Delvey, bitches. She booked a private jet that was going to cost her $39,000, and she didn't pay the fee up front, and they let her go. She just forged a wire transfer slip, and then they just like let her on the plane. She never paid it. How is she able to do this? She must be like really good at manipulating people. I am like scared for what this girl is going to do in the future. You know what I mean? She stole all this money and she still thinks she hasn't done anything wrong. What the hell? They let her book a plane with a forged wire transfer slip, a $39,000 plane. Are you fucking kidding me? Was this girl just like walking around with like dripping in gold all the time? She must have opened up like a ton of lines of credit and then spent all of that money building up her image and then just kind of floated on that and tricked people into them paying for her. That's the only way I can make sense out of this, because I don't know how everyone just trusted her so much. So let's get to Anna's trip to Morocco in May of 2017, because oh my fucking God. If any friend did this to me, I would So you remember her friend Rachel that we were talking about. Anna invited her friend Rachel, her personal trainer, and a videographer to go with her to Morocco. Anna needed to get out of the country for a visa reason, and instead of going back to Germany, she decided to go somewhere sunny for a few weeks and asked her friends to go with her. Rachel was like, I can't really afford a trip to Morocco. And then Anna was just like, oh, no, I'll pay for everything. You just come with me. Oh, Rachel, you poor sweet baby. I am so sorry. Anna asked Rachel to put the flights on her credit card. She was like, oh, I'll pay you back. And I imagine flights to Morocco are so expensive. And they stayed in a hotel that cost $7,000 a night. It is one of the most expensive hotels in the world. They stayed in a little villa cabana type thing. And I got this information from the article that Rachel wrote on Vanity Fair. It's a really, really good article. You should go check it out. That article is amazing. Even though we all haven't had that happen to us, we've all had a friend that have kind of trapped us in through manipulation and feeling like we need them and stuff like that. Anna asked Rachel to put the flights on her credit card and promised to pay her back. Surprise, surprise. Never happened. So they were living it up in Morocco. They had a good time. So this trip started off with a few purchases that went wrong and Rachel covering them and then adding them to her tab as they were joking. They tried to buy tea and Anna's debit card had been declined, and Rachel asked her, hey, did you let your bank know that you were going overseas? And Anna was like, oh no. So she thought it was just that, And they brought a videographer because Anna wanted to make a documentary about the Anna Delvey Foundation and wanted to get some practice in Morocco. And I read that Rachel would hear Anna often say some very classist things like, you bitch is broke. But then she would immediately humble herself by talking about how hard it was to support so many people's incomes or give people a living wage. Classic manipulation tactic, my God. And at some point the trainer got sick and had to leave Morocco really early. And one morning, two managers came to their villa because there was no functioning credit card on file. An employee had actually gotten fired because of this. And these men cornered Rachel and Anna and said that they wouldn't leave their room until there was a functioning credit card on file. And Anna was just like, I don't know what's happening with my bank. I don't know. Could you please just cover this and I'll pay you back? And a lot of people blame Rachel for this, but what she was thinking was valid. Because you know how a lot of hotels will hold your credit card and then just have a small fee charged in case there's any damages done to the room? It was kind of something like that, and that's what Rachel expected. So Rachel gave them her American Express credit card. Keep in mind, this girl works at Vanity Fair, but she is not rich. She makes less than $60,000 a year. She has about $400 in her checking account. Rachel got back to the States and the entire hotel bill was charged to her credit card. $62,000. $62,000. $62,000. I got a little lightheaded saying that. After Anna paying for all these dinners and all this everything, how was she supposed to know? And Rachel describes in her article that getting this money back from Anna was a full-time job. Anna would tell her that she was having issues with her bank. Anna would ghost her. Anna would say like, oh, I'm in upstate New York on a business trip. She was just constantly having troubles accessing her fortune. This fucking bitch. Anna Delvey. She should not be an icon. That is just horrible. If my grown-ass adult friend tried to do that shit to me, I would kick her ass. I don't support violence, but I would kick her ass. I know when Inventing Anna is going to come out, everyone is going to view Anna as like, oh my God, what an icon. Oh my God, she really pulled that off. Oh my God, you should have seen that coming. And kind of victim blaming. No, Anna was doing exactly what big companies and billionaires do, which is like rip off people who are struggling. Anna represents what is wrong with capitalism because she does exactly what big businesses do. They manipulate people, put them in compromising situations for their own personal gain. I mean, Rachel didn't really have a choice. They were in Morocco. They couldn't leave until they put a credit card on file. And Anna was decked out in her Gucci and Supreme, so how was she supposed to know that she couldn't handle a $60,000 hotel bill? Anna had no intention of paying her back. Let me tell you. And Rachel was a perfect target because she had good enough credit and made enough to be able to be charged that amount, but she wasn't rich enough to afford a good lawyer to get her money back. Rachel said in her Vanity Fair article that getting her money back from Anna became a full-time job. There was always something wrong with the banks. There was always an excuse. She would say like, oh, 70,000's on the way for your trouble, and then it would just like never show up. Rachel couldn't sleep at night. She was constantly stressed, and I can't imagine having that much debt on your, well, I can't imagine because I have about that much in student loan debt, but that doesn't exist to me. Wow, I'm just now getting to my eyeshadow. I've been so heated. And there was one point where Anna told her she had a cashier's check for $70,000. And when she went to go pick it up at Anna's hotel room, this time she was staying at the Beekman because, you know, she got kicked out. She went to her hotel room and there were papers everywhere. And she was like, oh my God, I can't find it. I lost the $70,000 cashier's check. Oh no. I mean, she may not have been rich, but that is serious rich girl behavior. She was like, oh, I must have left it at my lawyer's office. I must have left it here. I must have left it at this restaurant. Girl, left a $70,000 cashier's check at a restaurant? I don't think so. And at 11 p.m. when Rachel had been there for hours and she realized she wasn't getting the check today, she was like, okay, I'm going to be here at 8 a.m. and we're going to go to the bank and get my money. She shows up at 8 a.m. Anna's not there. This is what she meant by it was like a full-time job to try and get this money back from Anna. So when Anna was staying at the Beekman, she did the same thing that she was doing at the 11 Howard. She racked up a $12,000 hotel bill and then they kicked her out. She then stayed at the W in Times Square and was kicked out after 2 days. The 11 Howard, the Beekman, and the W decided to press charges for theft of services. And she started being investigated by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for bank fraud. Finally, someone is catching her. So Anna was in California for some reason when she was arrested in a sting operation, and then she was brought back to New York. She appeared in court on December 18th, 2018, and rejected her plea deal. Girl, she pleaded innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. They said she didn't show any remorse for what she did. And like I said in the beginning, she had actual victims. They weren't just big banks and hotels. She seemed to care a lot more about how she looked in court than like the people she hurt and the lives that she ruined. She got a stylist for her court appearances, which it is a strategy by a lot of people to like look a certain way so the jury will have more pity on you. But that's just ridiculous. She even refused to enter the courtroom if she hated the way she looked. And her lawyer had literally no ground to stand on. He tried to compare her to Frank Sinatra and trying to look for the golden opportunity. Girl, no. On April 5th, 2019, Anna Sorokin was found guilty of 8 charges: grand larceny, attempted grand larceny, and theft of services. She was found not guilty of attempted grand larceny for that loan she was trying to get from City National Bank for the Anna Delvey Foundation. And she was also found not guilty of second-degree larceny for the money she owed Rachel. So Rachel never got her $62,000 back. Oh my God. She did write a best-selling book about it, though, called My Friend Anna, so yay. But for real, I think she should have been found guilty of that. But I do get why she wasn't, because like, you know, Rachel like agreed to put her credit card down. And it's so hard to say that you owe someone money based on word of mouth. Like it's hard. On May 9th, 2019, Anna Sorokin was sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison. She was fined $24,000 and she was ordered to pay $199,000 in restitution for her victims. She stayed at Rikers Island during her trial and then a couple other prisons after that, and she was released February 11th, 2021. Now, a couple years ago when I found out that Netflix was making this series about Anna Delvey, I thought that they weren't going to pay her any money and were going to pay their victims, including Rachel. Now, Netflix actually paid her $320,000 to use her story, but they froze part of it to make sure she paid the banks and hotels back and she didn't spend the money on stupid shit. God, Anna. Like, it actually makes me uncomfortable how much money she wasted. $7,000 a night at a hotel in Morocco? $7,000 a night? A night? If you watch her 60 Minutes Australia interview, oh my god, it's so good. She does not feel bad at all. She's just like, you'll name me the people I've hurt and I'll tell you if I feel bad about it. I don't think this was a crime. They asked her about her experience at Rikers Island and she was like, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Are you kidding me, Anna? It's like, I've watched a lot of these 60-minute Australia interviews about these like con women who like faked a bunch of stuff to get something out of it. Like, there was this one woman who faked a bunch of pregnancies to get in a relationship with this like rugby star. And it's like, they deny. Like, the interviewer will be like, you did X, Y, and Z. And they'll be like, I didn't do such a thing. It's like that cold, dead look in their eyes is really interesting. And Anna does not feel bad about it at all. She never did. She's not sorry. And she would probably do something like this again, which honestly scares the living crap out of me. It's very interesting seeing someone who is so full of themselves. In the whole interview, you can tell she hasn't changed at all. She's just like, I can do whatever I want. I'm Anna Delvey, bitches. And whenever he asks her to take like any accountability for anything, she has this really awkward laugh the entire time. She's just like, almost like she's above it all. It's really weird. Like, girl, you just spent 4 years in prison. Calm down. And people still eat her up. People still love her. And I love how this psychologist described that we often don't pay attention to the victims of con artists because we kind of like dehumanize them a little bit. And we think about the con artists and think like, oh, wow, you really did that. You really pulled one over on them. And there's a lot of victim blaming. And I hate it. I just get sick of victims getting pushed aside. Like, if you look at serial killers, a lot of serial killers are often idolized. Like Jeffrey Dahmer. He did horrendous things and yet people still glorify him. That is so gross to me. But I was really, really happy to find out that HBO is actually adapting My Friend Anna, Rachel's best-selling book. Good for you, Rachel. You take that back. You take it back. And Anna is currently sitting in ICE custody. We do not like ICE. And they're determining whether she can stay in the country or get deported back to Germany. Honestly, I find Anna Delvey very, very fascinating, but I don't really admire her. I admire her drive and determination, but like conning all those people out of their money and not feeling bad about it, no. And like I said, it's easy to not feel bad for these like big business banks and hotels, but she hurt real people. People were fired from their jobs because of her. And Anna and Rachel's friendship was a classic case of being friends with a narcissist and them giving and then taking. Narcissists give a lot in the beginning, so they feel like they can just own you after that. I'm really excited to see Inventing Anna. I hope they focus on Rachel because I feel so awful. Like, y'all, this 60 Minutes Australia interview was wild. It was crazy. She did not have a drop of remorse in her eyes. Not a single bit. None. I'm someone who feels so bad I can't sleep at night for characters who don't even exist on a TV show. I cannot imagine not feeling any remorse for like ruining people's lives. But like I said, we're a society that tends to admire people who do bad things and victim blame the victims. Anna, you are not a girl boss. Rachel's the real girl boss. That's all I got. If you want to hear more from me, go ahead and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at Beth Burnham and TikTok at Beth Burnham with 2 M's. Yeah, I'll probably talk about Elizabeth Holmes next. 2 con artists in a row. Okay, bye.